Hi everyone, I hope you are all well. So now I'm back with another video. This time I want to talk about things that I would like to be adapted. Now there have been various things where I've talked about adaptations of books all the time, about how being very open to various adaptations, but then at the same time, kind of a bit reluctant in some cases. But you have to be open to the fact that things are going to change, things are going to be taken out, things are going to be added in, etc. And so I was kind of like going through my book collection, and I was like, I've got quite a few books here that I actually would like to see adaptations of. When I say I want to see them, I mean actually see them, because a few of these, actually, three of the things I want to show you have been adapted from radio plays, or they originally were radio plays. So there is an adaptation out there and everything. But I want to actually see a TV or a film adaptation of. So I thought I'd share them with you. So here we go. So the first one is a bit of a biggie, because it's 7 books, and I think you can probably guess. If you know me, you know my channel, you know what I'm going to say, and hopefully I can hold these 7 books without dropping them. It's the C.J. Sampson Matthew Shardlake series. There we are. There's all of them together. I'm going to put this down because I'm going to drop them. So, C.J. Sampson's books are the Matthew Shardlake series. As I said, there are 7 of them in total, and they basically follow a lawyer in the Tudor dynasty. The first one being Disillusion, which starts in 1537, and the most recent one, Tombland, set in the summer of 1549. So across these 7 books follows Matthew Shardlake, this lawyer, as he goes through these various situations, basically investigating murders. And these have been created into audiobooks. The BBC Radio 4 have adapted the first 5, so these 5, into radio plays. I love those radio plays, but I would love for them to be made into actual dramas. Now, there was a whole thing that they were going to be made into dramas with the BBC. Kenneth Branagh was possibly going to play Matthew, which I was a bit like, oh, okay, right. Not like, oh my god, that's really bad, but I was a bit like, oh, that's interesting casting, okay. I'm just thinking, because Matthew's got a hunchback and everything, and how they're going to do that. But he decided to do another project, and it's just kind of stalled since then. So, as to if these will ever be adapted, I don't know, but I really hope so. I really do. These are absolutely extraordinary pieces of writing. The mysteries themselves were all very different, and especially because of the way in which CJ writes them, you very much feel like you're in Tudor society. You're not seeing historical events from way back here. You are dead in there, day to day, doing, X, Y, Z in order to live. You're feeling what society are feeling right then. And even though you may know the Tudor history, you may know, with this book, because it starts, I think it's like a month or 2 after Jane Seymour has died, you know that Henry's got another 3 wives to go through, but you don't think about that. You think just as the Tudor people think about in regards to what is happening now, what could possibly happen to the monarchy and everything in the next few months to a year, etc. So, you're in the moment, and I really love when you have things like that. I very much would like to see Tudor day-to-day life depicted in a drama, and I would absolutely love it if the BBC would look to actually adapt these properly, and I would be so excited, Please, BBC, please, can you make them? You must have the rights to them in order for Kenneth Branagh to be considered for the role, but why bench it? What is going on? Maybe CJ needs to. And if we write to CJ and get him to explain what the heck's going on, that would be absolutely amazing. But I strongly recommend all of the Matthew Shardlake series to anyone who wants to read them. I don't know anybody else ever, in my circle or whatever, who have read his books. Only Facebook book group have I met people who have read his Matthew Shardlake series, and they all love it. I love it. So please, BBC, can you pick this up? That would be amazing. So I've got a few more fiction over here, and then I've got some non-fiction. So the next fiction is actually one where they are currently filming it, but I just want to say it because I'm going to say it because I love it. It's the most recent Cormoran Strike novel. It's Lethal White. So they started filming this last month. I am particularly looking forward to this one. I am dying to know more about casting. They have announced one cast member, which is Robert Glenister, and I was like, oh my God, because he actually does the audiobooks, and there is a point where in this book where the character who he's playing actually does an impression of Cormoran, and I'm thinking, if he does Cormoran's voice from the audiobooks, because I love listening to them and I know exactly the way he does Cormoran's voice, if he does that impression, I am going to lose my shit. I am seriously gonna freak out. I am so excited to see him, but I really would like Luke. Oh gosh, his pronunciation of his surname just fell out of my head. He was in Musketeers with Tom Burke, who my sister and I have talked about previously. I would love it if he played Raphael, but we still haven't got any casting information. So come on, BBC, let us know what's going on in regards to that. And we're going to get a 4-part series, which I'm so excited because it is a chunky story and there's a lot going on in this story as well. So I totally understand why they're doing that, and I totally respect them for doing it. Obviously, Tom Burke's going to be back as Cormoran, and Holly Granger is playing Robin again. Yay! So I'm just super excited for this one. Yeah. Right, so on to ones that just definitely haven't been adapted in fiction apart from radio-esque. And the first one I want to talk about is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. Now, this is actually being made into a film, or it's being in the process of possibly happening, as far as I am aware. When it comes to this book, I think it's important that it is made. I would love it if it was done like something like on Netflix, but it's probably going to be a big film that they'll do instead, most likely, I would have thought. When it comes to casting, I want a complete unknown to play Eleanor. I don't want a big name. I think just as the character, that she is an individual you wouldn't pull out of a crowd. She needs to be played by someone a name that you just don't pull out of Hollywood, out of an existing list of actors. I can't see her being played by anyone in Hollywood at the moment, or any kind of TV related star, on big, like say for example, like one of the young girls in Modern Family or something like that. I cannot imagine her being played by one of them. I think it's got to be a complete unknown. If they did that, I would be really happy. Really happy. When it comes to male lead character in this, I think, I'm not going to say his name because obviously I don't, in case you haven't read the book, I don't want you to necessarily know that he's the lead male, as it were, because of the various events that happen. I want him to be played by George McKay. I hope you can see that. So he was in Pride and Sunshine on Leith and such. I think George McKay is a really good actor, and I'm just like, he was the person I visualized in my head as I was reading this book, and I sent the casting suggestion to my sister, and she was like, "Oh my god, yes, 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 perfect." So I want something like that where it's, you know, he's a name in you know, in the acting industry and such, but because of like pride or whatever, but he's not a name that constantly pops up in Hollywood films and everything. So in a way, he is kind of an unknown. So I would love it if it was a woman who played Eleanor, who was a complete unknown, and George to play the lead, you know, of the book, our male lead of this book. I think that casting would be wonderful. I really hope, though, with this one, that they keep things like, because it's so important, the cat, the SpongeBob SquarePants balloon, that kind of thing. The cat you can't really write out, but the balloon you could. But those things are so important to Eleanor and her development and everything in the story. If you were to take it out, you're taking out a part of Eleanor's soul, and you can't do that. So I would be very, very intrigued. I'd be very, very happy that they left that in. I also just want to say that I'd be very intrigued to know who's going to play Mother. Well, Mother's going to have to appear in it, because you've got no choice there as well. That's a no choice. You have to have her in there. Who would I like to play Mother? Oh, I think someone like Gina McKee. I think she could be pretty good as Mother. Someone who has that kind of elegance, but yet have this side where she can play, you know, that thing of elegant exterior, but something inside not quite being right. I think that could be quite interesting to play Mother. But then, you know, you could have someone who's a bit more rugged. You know, you could even go to like British soaps and choose someone from there to play Mother. You know, I think that that could be quite interesting actually if you did that. That really could. I might have to think about that for playing Mother. But I would really very much that the tone of the book is kept and Eleanor is not made fun of. Because it could be very easy for Eleanor to be made fun of because she's so quirky and the things that she does. But it makes sense when you know the full story exactly of why she is the way she is. So I think, yeah, that totally does make sense. So, yeah, I have high hopes, but at the same time, I'm feeling about... I think I need to know casting, but I would love, love, love George McKay to be in that film. I think he'd be perfect. Or Netflix show, whatever they do. Okay, my next one, because it is absolutely amazing, and if they've done Good Omens and they've done American Gods, they can adapt this. Neverwhere. Neverwhere is my absolute favourite Neil Gaiman novel. But then at the same time, you have this thing where, you know, oops, sorry, I'm just moving stuff about. Because it's my favourite. Bit sensitive about this one. You can't do a Stardust. What they did with Stardust was appalling, absolutely bloody appalling. If it was like Coraline, where they did pretty well, but they did change various aspects, but it still completely worked, I would be okay with that. But if they do a Stardust adaptation with this, I would be fuming. Now, Neverwhere has been made into a radio play with James McAvoy playing the lead with Natalie Dormer, and their chemistry together is wonderful. Really, really, really decent, great adaptation. And that's the thing, you know, like I've said before, that radio are so good at adapting various novels and such. Because they have the scope, they have the ability to spend more time and doing, you know, various things rather than film does. So, or TV does. So this is why I'm like, at least I've got that dream adaptation. So if they did do an adaptation of Neverwhere and they completely balls it up, then I've still got my dream with James McAvoy playing the lead. I'd be very happy with that. It would be cool if James were to play the lead, but now that he is a bit older and everything, I don't know necessarily if it would work. If it was Colin Morgan or someone who was in Merlin, and he's also in the fabulous radio play of Good Omens, because of his age, because of the way he's a great actor, the way that he plays his kind of a bit more quirky characters, I think that could really work. You could also, just thinking about it, you could possibly even, again, George Mackay could play Scots, because he's a Scotsman living in London. I'm just trying to think of Scottish actors and such of that age, or it could be a complete unknown. But I absolutely love Neverwhere. It's all about under London and mythical creatures and such. And this guy, who's a Scottish man who moves to London, who gets caught up in it and trying to find his way back and learning about himself along the way. Natalie Dormer, though, I think could still play our lead lady. I think she really could. But yeah, you never know. It might be another unknown lady could be there. But the fact that, as I said, Amazon did American Gods and Good Omens. I haven't seen either of them because it's on Amazon. I don't have Amazon Prime. But I was really shocked by the Good Omens trailer. I didn't like it. I really didn't like it. I was like, well, you've cut that out. You've changed that. What the hell are they doing there? That's not in the book. That joke is not appropriate. Why is Azrael like that? Why are they do? I was constantly asking questions and making opinions throughout that trailer. So I was a bit like, oh god. But I've got my fabulous adaptation, Good Omens, from BBC Radio 4, so at least I've got that. But I would like Neverwhere to be looked at. And if actors from the radio play like Anthony Head, who's absolutely brilliant in that radio play, could appear in the adaptation, I would be very, very happy. Now, my last two fiction that I have are very, very different. So first of all, we've got Bleak Expectations. Now, this has got a bit of a quirky history. So it began as a radio play that ran for 5 years, which I really love, and it is a spoof take of Dickens' novels, following Pippin and his sisters Pippa and Poppy as they deal with various things that happen, including that their father dies, their mother goes kind of crazy, and Pip gets sent to a boarding school, and various people that they encounter on the way. And it's that thing that if you know Dickens, it is absolutely hysterical the way that he takes apart Dickens' works and everything, but at the same time you don't have to know every single Dickens book or anything to appreciate it and understand it. It's really great. I love the radio play. They then made a TV series that ran for two series, I think it was, but there is a big but here. It was called Bleak Expectations, but it didn't follow the story of Bleak Expectations, the radio plays. Instead, it told a completely different story. It did have a load of jokes from the actual radio play, but it followed a completely different situation. You had this married couple with a couple of kids and everything, and there was a whole thing about opium addicts and stuff like that in the show. And it sort of worked, but it didn't at the same time, because radio, you have the power to have play on words because you can't physically see the actors, but describing, kind of what they are, what they're wearing and stuff like that in the comic. Like there's this whole part where they're like, Mr. Benevolent. They're like, oh, you know, look, he's over there. But why is he naked? And you're like, oh my God, you find yourself hysterically laughing in this scene because of the situation that they're in, because they just suddenly remarked on that he's naked. But if you physically see it, it's like, okay, that's just really weird, and you don't necessarily find yourself laughing. So it's very different putting it in TV scenario than having it on the radio. What I would love, they brought out this book, sorry, I forgot to say, this book was released with the first series of the TV show, and it's basically the story of the various characters in the show and everything, which my mum and dad got me for a Christmas present the year that it came out, and you know, I was really happy with that. And they had to specially order it, I remember, because it took them forever to find it, because it was just like nowhere had it, and I desperately wanted it because I loved the radio plays and everything. So what I would personally love is that they adapted Bleak Expectations, but they adapted the radio story, not the TV one that they did. So so that's a bit of a quirky one of when it comes to adaptations. I want to follow Pippa and Poppy, and the their adventures with Mr. Benevolent, and Mr. Parsimonious. Mr. Parsimonious, who's the most generous of men, and Mr. Benevolent, who's a complete bastard. And if you know what benevolent and parsimonious means, they're complete opposite to what their characters are. And I want to follow that adventure. I want to go with them to London. I want him to invent the bin. I want him to meet Harry Biscuit and, have the various adventures that they have at school. And I really want to meet Mr. Parsimonious, the most generous of men, because I adore him. And Harry's obsession with swans. I love his obsessions with swans, but it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. I just know it, but I would love it if it did. But yeah. And my final fiction that I would like to see adapted is Fangirl. Bit of an odd one. Right, so this is the only Rainbow Rowell book that I have read. I've read it a couple of times. And I like Fangirl because I am one of them. I am a fangirl. And I think that's why I would like to see it adapted. I would like people to understand what it's like being a fangirl if you are not a fangirl. I love that she has this kind of obsession with a Harry Potter-esque story, but obviously the author Rainbow could use Harry Potter, so she made up this kind of Harry Potter alternative for her character to absolutely love. And following this girl through university and everything, her issues with her twin sister Ren, the problems that they have back at home, looking after their dad after their mum left, the complexities with her mum, and the meeting Levi, our main guy, and what he brings to the table for her. I think it's a really nicely constructed book. I really like the story, and it must pull something in my heart, or something like the fact that I was just staring at my bookshelves, grabbing books left, right, and centre for this, and I just grabbed it. There has to be something that made me grab this book. I would like, if they did it as like a Netflix thing, a Netflix film, I think that would work better than a big scale Hollywood film. Again, I would love it if complete unknowns played all of the various characters. I would be completely happy with that. Even the adults, where like I'm just thinking like To All the Boys I Loved Before, pretty much all of the team, the kids were completely new, and her dad was played by, oh god, his name just fallen out of my head. He played Aidan in Sex and the City, so he was known, and he was in My Big Fat Greek Wedding, both films. So he was known, but he wasn't, like a massive star in comparison to what it could be if Hollywood were to make it. So yeah, I would really like if it was like a Netflix To All the Boys I Loved Before, complete unknowns telling this story, and it could then lead to other books of hers being adapted. As I said, I've not read any of her other books. I really should do, but I just haven't gotten around to it. But I think something like that could be very interesting. And I can't think of really points of this book which they couldn't adapt, which could, can't be cut out. Everything is doable. Everything makes sense. And so I think it's a real proper, complete story that I would really like to see on screen. So, yeah, Netflix. I'd like that, please. Fangirl. Now, I've got a few non-fiction as well. It's been ages since I've read any non-fiction books. I figured out, I actually looked through my list of what I've read so far this year and reviewed, and I think 3 of them were non-fiction. But yeah, that's I really should read some more non-fiction books. I've got loads of them upstairs. But I have got 5 here that I would love to see adapted. For either Netflix or as a film, whatever, I would love to see adapted. And the first one is Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow. Now, as you know, I love Hamilton, the musical. That's what led me to read this book. I absolutely loved and devoured this book. I thought it was wonderful. But what I would like is if we had either a kind of docudrama or an actual dramatisation of this book covering the life of Alexander Hamilton. I would love that. I think I can't think who it was, but there was one of the presidents. Oh god, this is really irritating me now. What they did a drama series of, and it was somebody who Alexander Hamilton was up against, and his name is falling completely out of my head, and I feel really embarrassed right now. I'll put it in the description. So, John Adams, that's it, John Adams, I remember now. It always happens, isn't it? When I think of something, I have to say it instantly, else it just falls out of my head, but then it'll come back to me. John Adams, they did a TV series about his life, and Alexander Hamilton and him had a lot of issues, and I didn't see any of that series, but my sister did, and really thoroughly liked it. And it was very interesting, because at that time, Hamilton wasn't around, so I don't know how she felt about how Alexander Hamilton was portrayed in that, but I would think it would be very interesting if now there were to be an adaptation of this book depicting the life of Alexander Hamilton, to show kind of from his perspective about things, about his world and everything, and what we've learned because of Hamilton. We have learned this book has kind of sold millions of copies and everything since Hamilton has been created. Obviously he did before that, but since Hamilton was created, it's opened up a chapter of history. It's opened up a load of questions of American history, and me as a British woman, I'd love to learn that, more stuff about that, and I'd love to see it depicted, because I don't know a whole lot about American history, because we weren't taught that. We were here in the UK, we were taught about UK history, so I would absolutely love to see it depicted on screen. I think a Netflix series would be good, or if a large company wants to make a series. I think it'd be too long for a film. A series would suit better, definitely. So I would absolutely love that. The next one, Mr. Briggs Hat. Now this one, not a lot of people probably know about this, but I love this book. I absolutely love this book. Mr. Briggs was the first man ever to be murdered on a railway, on a train in the UK. Sounds a bit weird then. You go, oh, why would you make a series out of it? Right, so the thing is that Mr. Briggs, as I said, he was murdered on a train. He was thrown out of the carriage door window, and he was found on the side of the road, and he later died. And it was his hat and a watch, which enabled them to track down the killer and have him hanged for the crime. But there's the thing that the killer, well, this person who was hung for the crime always claimed his innocence. Now, to me, looking at the evidence, I say he was very guilty, and everybody else would, but there is always that possibility that he might not have. So this same author, Kate, wrote The Suspicions of Mr. Witcher, which became a drama which took off and really put her her writing under the spotlight. But what I didn't like about that drama was that they made the suspicions of Mr. Witcher, the actual suspicions of what happened that night, be what Kate wrote, what she thought. So Kate in the book says, right, this is what I think XYZ happens, and they gave that as Witcher's thoughts, and I'm like, no, that's not that's not what Witcher thought at the time. But then, because of the popularity of the series, they then decided to make a load of other a drama. They carried on the drama forward in other cases with Mr. Witcher, which were, I think they were fictionalised, but I'm not entirely certain of that. And so I'm just going to throw that caveat in there. That carried on for a couple of series, but that drama is what threw my interest in, because my dad had actually read The Suspicions of Mr. Witcher, and when the drama trailer was released, he gave me his copy to have a read, and I read it, and I absolutely loved it, and that's what led me to Kate's writing. And she wrote Mr. Briggs' Hat, the first murder that happened on a Victorian train, and this kind of triggered, because trains were still relatively new then, crimes happening on trains didn't happen before this point, or at least they weren't reported. And so it kind of started off this new wave of literature of using trains as not a device to get you from A to Z, but also a crime-related underlayer. As well, so it was a massive deal, and so Mr. Briggs' Hat basically tells that story. I find the case very intriguing. I would absolutely love it if they did a drama or a docudrama about the case. It's a fascinating read, really strongly recommend it. Oh no, sorry, I just realised, oh, how very bad of me. I said that Kate Cohen wrote Suspicions of Mr. Witcher. It wasn't, it was this Kate. Sorry, Kate Summerscale. I've got the two. Can you understand why I got these two authors the wrong way around? Sorry, it's Kate Summerscale who wrote The Suspicions of Mr. Witcher. So Mr. Briggs' Hat by Kate Lacombe. Really strongly recommend. She's written other books, which I also have. Which are, they are pretty good in the sense she looks at Victorian crime, but it's Kate Summerscale who wrote The Suspicions of Mr. Witcher. I am very sorry, Kate Summerscale, for getting you two muddled up, but you can understand in my in my pile of books that I've got here on my sofa. But another Victorian crime that I would like to see adapted, because I find this case fascinating, is The Wicked Boy by Kate Summerscale. Now, this is a case of two brothers, who were basically, they lived with their mother. They were very, living just a general normal life. And then one day, neighbours noticed that they were spending a lot of money, which they wouldn't usually do, which was very odd, and a foul smell was coming from the house, and they basically called the police and said, look, there's something going on here. And they entered the house to find that in their mother's room lay their mother's corpse, and she had been, she was stabbed several times, and the youngest boy had no idea that their mother was dead, no idea at all, and the eldest basically said, look, kind of like, well, we kind of did it, but both of them got put on trial, and they, went their various separate ways and everything. But this book is not just about the case, it's about the way in which children were dealt with in Victorian police and courts systems, also the way they treated children who were convicted of crimes, and psychological behaviour after crimes. I found that so interesting, and how after this murder had happened, the boys felt about the situation, and the wicked boy is the eldest. That's what he was referred to as. It is a beautiful piece, and I also I think it's very interesting also with Victorian murders how the press obviously very sensationalized. Oh my God, this has happened, blah, blah, blah. But how they react to children who have committed crimes, that was very, very eye-opening for me. So I would really like to see The Wicked Boy be adapted to be able to show that how, just as with now the legal system for children who commit crimes, how we've got laws that, you know, protect their identity, because they're under 18. So if you see like press related stuff of various crimes, a lot of time the press can't even mention their name, they can't show pictures or anything like that. That's a modern law, but back then these children who are about 12 years old, 10, 12 years old, how they were referred to in the press, I find it really interesting. So I really would recommend The Wicked Boy, both as a read and to be adapted. I don't know how that would be adapted, but I think again maybe a docudrama, maybe. But yes. Now the next two, this first one I think really could be a film. But in order for it to be a film, it kind of feels like, especially with crime, like it kind of feels like it's going to have to be kind of like Zodiac, where you're going to have somebody kind of following it through, or a detective who's following it, you know, through all life, or they could have somebody actually play Michelle McNamara trying to figure out who it is. I don't know, but I would love to see this adapted. I'll Be Gone in the Dark. This book was unbelievable. It was my favourite book. I think, what was that, last year or the year before? I can't remember now. I think it was last year. It was so riveting. The atmosphere of it, you can vividly see it. If it was adapted, you can see the scenarios, you can see the set, you can see the events take place. I don't know if because of the various crimes, if I'd want to, because how graphic it is, how horrendous the crimes were. I don't know if I'd like to see the various things happen, but the investigation of going through the years and the aftermath and all that lot, I think would be amazing. I know that there was it's shown on Sky One, that was it, here in the UK, so I'm just going to shift some things about as I'm talking, shown a documentary series, I think it was a HBO one that they showed on Sky One here in the UK about the case, which was amazing. I think they did it very, very well. Sorry, I'm just shifting about, I'm getting uncomfortable. I think if they did something like that, it would still work, but that's from a documentary. That's you standing back to actually be in there, as it were, as a film or a TV drama. I think they'd have to be really sensitive about the crimes that took place, situations, etc. It'd be very hard to adapt it in that aspect. But I would love to see it because it was so powerful a piece. It was so atmospheric. I adored every single minute of reading it. So I would love to see it. I think it might be. Oh! Sorry, I just thought. You know the American. Oh God, what's the series called? is it American Horror Story? To do, you know, where they did the O.J. Simpson trial kind of drama, and then they did the Versace one, and I think next they're doing Princess Diana. If they did something like that, that could work. That really could work. Oh, that's an intriguing. If they were to adapt this book like that, that would be wow. Yeah. Okay, and on to my final books. I feel like I need to get. I've literally filmed one video right after the other, and I feel like I need to get up and walk around. So I'm going to do this very quickly because my back is aching so much. My last one, Get Happy by Gerald Clark. Now, you're probably going, wait, that's Judy Garland. They've got a Judy film out at the moment. Yes, I know they've got a Judy film out at the moment. And I went to see it during the course of the Literature Festival, and I hated it. Absolutely hated it. They painted her as this complete tragic figure. They did stuff in her childhood which didn't happen. They basically went, woe is me, and just, she was just this abused, scared little girl, basically, throughout. And that's not Judy to me. She was incredibly, yes, right, I can't ignore the fact that she had drug and alcohol problems. I can't ignore that fact. I can't ignore the fact that her mother put her on pills since she was a little girl. Obviously, can't ignore that. But Judy was also full of light. She was so funny. I loved various aspects of her personality and such. And Gerald Clark paints her beautifully in this book. He doesn't shy away from the darkness, but he doesn't shove out the light of her personality, which I love. So if I were, for me, the version of Judy that I would want to see is the version in Get Happy. I really do like the 2001 drama Me and My Shadow, which starred Judy Davis as Judy Garland. That's adapted from Lorna Luft's book about her mum, Judy Garland, and her life and everything. And I really liked that because I think also you can feel the connection with Lorna, in that Lorna also was involved with writing it. She was involved with the production and everything. So you have that personal connection. I totally understand why she didn't want to see the new film Judy. Obviously, it's a very personal thing, but she has her mother's legacy to protect. And if I was, presented that film, if that was my mum, I would be really, really upset with how they depicted her in it. I think also Renee Zellweger, she's probably going to be nominated for an Oscar for it. I don't think she deserves it. The whole time, I didn't feel that she became Judy. The whole time I was thinking, oh, it's just Renee Zellweger up there. It's not Judy. And that's not because of the negativity about things that they changed about Judy's life or whatever. It's just she hasn't become her. She's not invoked her for me. That's how I felt. But with Judy Davis for the 2001 version, even though she doesn't look like Judy, she doesn't have that same kind of facial structure, her big eyes or whatever, I totally 100% believe that she was Judy because she invoked her. So that's a difference. Just because you look like somebody famous who you're depicting, that doesn't mean that you were necessarily best for that part. And that's what came across, for me. But it felt very depressive. The entire time I just sat there like, oh God, just feeling so down and depressed. And even like the ending, you have this, I suppose, this kind of her last scene, kind of a more of a happier moment in a way. And then it cuts to black and you get all this text on screen, which is in the ruby red sequins kind of colouring, to this very mournful piano, and then that mournful piano goes into the credits and that's it. And it's like, what? It just felt so wrong. The fact, like, even if they ended it with showing over the credits pictures and footage of Judy with like Get Happy playing or something, or even like when she was younger, when she sang You Know You Made Me Love You, or Zing Went the Strings of My Heart, something like that. I think that would have made the credits nice. But I really wanted Judy to be about the real Judy, not the tragedy. Tragic is the ultimate word that gets associated with her, which I hate. I really hate that. She was more than just tragedy. She was an extraordinary woman to deal with what she did, to do what she did in her life. And she died so young. It's so sad. But whenever I think of Judy, I smile because I think of Get Happy. I think of Zing Went the Strings of My Heart. I think of, all of those moments in my life where she's made me smile. And even like The Man That Got Away, it's an extraordinary song, but it makes me smile because she sings it with such passion, and it's just, it gives me chills every time. So I would love it if the real Judy would appear in a drama, a film, or a Netflix series or something. I would just want the real Judy to shine. So I would love it if Gerald Clark's version of Judy, Get Happy, was adapted. Okay, that's it for my video about books I would like to see adapted. Did you like this video? I'd love to know what you think. Leave a comment in the comments below. If there are books that you would like to see adapted, let me know. Why? Who would you cast? And or as I said, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, tell it to you decide. And I'll be back with another video. But first, I'm going to have a little walk around because my back is killing me. 2 out of my 3 videos done. Right, let's go into the next one. Bye.